Business Results Program. This is how you can transform yourself, your team, and your whole company. My name is Pete Winarski. I'm the CEO of Win Enterprises, LLC, and this video is us recording a podcast episode. Podcast Business Results Radio. Look up businessresultsradio.com or go check it out on iTunes or one of the other podcast platforms. And do subscribe and do give a 5-star review. Now, you as a business leader, we get what you're going through. You've got overwhelm and stress and frustration. You have high expectations on your shoulders, some of which you put there yourselves. Why can I say this? Because we, our team, we've experienced this ourselves. We have been business leaders. We know what it's like. And boy, how cool is it that you have this resource. You can listen to this podcast, gain some insights about what you can do differently, gain some ideas, some strategies that you can put in place right away to make your life easier. That's what we're after here. We want your life to be easier because being a business leader does not have to be this challenging, doesn't have to be this hard. And we want you to exceed your expectations, excel and achieve the results you want, get your team to thrive, and your company to just absolutely go right through the roof. And you can do that here. Enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, Pete Winarski here, and this is Business Results Radio, and I am with Terri Levine. Terri, once again, you are on this show. How is it that you pulled it off? You're the first double guest I've got.
Wow, I feel honored. Thank you so much for having me back, Pete.
Oh, you're welcome. Now today, for you listening, Terri, if you saw the video or listened to the podcast the first go around, that was all about Terri, the heartrepreneur, and talking about heart-centered leadership. Today is a little bit different because we're going to get inside of Terri's heart. We're going to talk to Terri about her new book, About to Break the Path to True Forgiveness. And this, Terri, is a deeply, deeply personal book for you, isn't it?
It really is. The book is written as an autobiography of my whole life story, starting when I was 5 years old and some boys tried to kill me by setting me on fire. And it reveals everything that's happened in my life. And along with that, it actually teaches the process that you can use for forgiveness.
Well, let's just back up. And when it started with you being lit on fire, I mean, you want to, there's the hook, everybody.
Yeah,
you know?
So I'll tell you, there's things in this book that my husband is not even aware of, and I've known him since I'm 17. When I was 5 years old, I'll share a bit about this. When I was 5 years old, we were going to go to a new school the next year. So when I was age 6, which would put me in first grade, we were going to a new school. So that summer, they were building the school that we're going to be going to. And a lot of us children were playing in the playground, which was mostly a construction zone. It was going to be a playground. There was a giant box. So we were playing in the box. We pretended we were camping. And we heard some boys come along. And they actually screamed, "Kill the Jews." And the next thing we knew, the entire box was up in flames. And everyone else got out of the box quickly and safely. I'm kind of small compared to a lot of people my age, even now.
Even now, yeah, that's true. We have photos of us standing next to each other. There's
Yes,
a little height
do.
differentiation.
They're hilarious. So that was the very first incident that happened to me where I really couldn't understand, how do you forgive? How do you understand? And it started me on kind of a lifelong quest of what happens when people, circumstances, things happen that you don't feel forgiving about, even when you can't forgive yourself.
Wow. I mean, that's, what an absolute setup, right? For you think about all of the good or bad that's happened in your life, and you specifically, Terri, and how do you top that, right? Almost getting burned to death at 5 years old. I mean, how traumatic can you get?
Yeah, and what's interesting about it is, how we think that something doesn't bother us, like it's running in our subconscious, but we go, oh, I don't even think about it. So I really didn't think I was thinking about it until I sat down to write the book, which I rewrote completely 16 times.
Mm.
I couldn't even figure out where to start. And then all of a sudden, that whole incident came rushing back to me. And I said, it's still running in me. So I knew by writing that chapter and revealing it, it would be cathartic for me. And in addition, it begins to teach the forgiveness process to the readers.
Right. Now, I know from the times that you and I have been together, because we were business partners for quite a few years on the Business Consultant Institute. And this is something that you've talked about for a long time. You've had in the background where, someday soon I'll write this, but you always had some other big project, right? Because this is book number what?
44.
So I think you've cranked out 10 books just in the time that I've known you, right? In the last, 5 or 6 or 7 years, whatever it's been. And so that's, you're prolific in writing and content, and people, if you haven't bumped into Terri on social media, just take a look at Facebook. I'm seeing your videos on Instagram now, and they're coming up all over the place. And that this is you kind of in full tilt, and yet you found time, which is really impressive. This is one of the things I've always been impressed by you, is you're just an output machine. Cranking out videos, or the webinars that we've done together, or whatever it is. It's like, I'm remembering times when it was we're both like dozing off while shooting
Literally.
videos at midnight, right?
I remember.
Yeah. But you find a way, and this has clearly been an important thing for you. But I'd like to say, and you probably will say it if I don't, but let me just tee it up, that you probably you wrote this book not because of the catharsis part where you're getting it out for you. You actually had some personal experiences that other people can benefit from.
That is actually why I wrote the book, as I began to open up a little bit and share some personal experiences with about 100 of my really closest client family members. They said, well, how do you forgive emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse? I've been through all of it. How do you forgive all this kinds of trauma? And I said, well, I actually figured it out. Like, I created a path for myself, and they asked me to teach it. I taught it, and they said, Terri, you have to write this in a book, because this has healed us in so many deep ways. We feel healthier, we're more mentally well, physically well, and it's led to us being able to create more wealth in our businesses. So I was compelled to write the book to share this process and teach it to as many people as possible.
So there's something important in there too, that even if it's about the forgiveness process of releasing some of the things that are holding you back, you actually just shared that for that sort of test group, if you will, right? This group of 100, that they ended up, because they broke the shackles or broke the chains, that they started getting results. So like, even in terms of for their businesses. So, I'd like you to talk about the tie-in, because this is like, okay, Terri Levine, the business mentor, or I think your license plate on your car says BizMD, right?
Oh, sure does.
That sure does, right? So you're the business doctor, and you are Dr. Terri Levine, so that does fit in nicely. So this is all about, helping entrepreneurs and business leaders, and getting, whether it's the consulting or the mentoring, and there's all sorts of different ways that you've played over the course of your career with helping people's businesses. And now this is a personal process, yet there's a connection. So can you just talk about how one relates to the other?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. So the way I look at business is not separate from the way I look at people. We just happen to be people doing business, but there is no separate entity in my mind as business. You're just a person. You're simply a human being on this planet having experience, and one of your experiences is the kind of work that you do. And I think we tend to, as human beings, to go to work and go, I don't have any personal stuff. I'm here, and that's not true. We bring our baggage, whether consciously or subconsciously, everywhere. And mostly it's subconscious. We don't even see it. Every relationship we have in business, every conversation, every sales call, every marketing call, every meeting, every team conversation, every communication is brought forth based upon the programs that are running in us, usually subconsciously. So as soon as you unlock, release, let go, and you will feel so much more peace and tranquility and happiness and joy and freedom and liberation, you actually behave differently in business. And that is why the wealth factor comes in. And it's come in for me, and it's come in for all of these 100 client family members. That's a lot of people.
And you've probably bumped into people who have had, you could just tell energetically that they've got a whole bunch of stuff running inside of them, negativity, anger, frustration, whatever. It's like the person who's desperate for a sale. I need you to buy from me, right? And it just feels icky, versus getting all that out of the way. And what that creates, the freeing feeling.
Yeah, I was sharing with you on a mutual friend, mentor of ours. I was doing a webinar last night, and I was teaching my proprietary closing process, which really isn't salesy. It's really consulting process. And I use a lot of silence, and people were so uncomfortable with the silence, and that's about them. I'm actually helping the person in a process of figuring out if they really do want to move forward and they really do want business consulting help, and if I can help them. So there's no reason for me to go fast. And when people are that uncomfortable, it's their own baggage. So if you notice, sometimes salespeople, they talk and talk and talk and talk and they lose the sale. Again, that's baggage, that's programs running. And my understanding of researching this work is so much of this is tied to shame, guilt, resentment, anger, sadness, lack of forgiveness.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just watched on the flight home. I was over in Europe last week, and I watched the Elton John movie Rocket Man, which I thought was absolutely fantastic.
Me too.
And he had a tough time forgiving his dad, right? His dad gave him the cold shoulder, and after he became famous, he went over to visit with him, and his dad had him sign one of his records, but not to me, to a friend. And there he is, his dad's being all loving with the two kids that he's got with some new mom, or new wife in his case. So how hard that is. And on the extreme, the Elton John approach was turning into substance abuse, versus, and for those, we all know Elton John's story. He's very happily married, and at the end of the movie it said 28 years sober. But can you imagine having to go through all of those things because you weren't able to sort of flush the anger, the frustration, and finding a way to forgive other people or forgive yourself, and having this other demon arise, which in Elton John's story is substance abuse. But think of how that relates, and that's just on a big scale with a movie that's current right now that people are actually seeing.
And so I like how you tied that in, because that's really true. I saw the movie as well. What I see is everything from lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, definitely lack of self-love. If I look at Elton John, clearly, you're abusing your body, you're abusing yourself, you're not loving yourself. And we might do this on a more moderate level, might not even realize we're doing it to that extent. We might be eating too much. We might be drinking a little bit too much. We might be using foul language. We might be short-tempered with our kids, with our parents, with our spouse. It's so fascinating to me as I started to really look at underlying causes. You know that I'm also a clinical psychologist and a master life coach and all these other things other than a business consultant. So my psychological brain really was taking apart all of these 100 people and saying, oh, there's where they're not forgiving, and there's where the guilt, anger, resentment, shame, fear, sadness are. And literally just in the process of the path of true forgiveness, the process I created, things were just shedding and disappearing. And every day I'd get on video with them for 100 days, and people look different. They look happier, less wrinkled, younger. People lost weight. And I'm like, this is amazing. When you tackle one thing, it's kind of like an octopus. It reaches all these different tentacles, and forgiveness is the key.
Right. Well, that's so excellent. Now, I was watching you on video, I think it was yesterday. There was and it was one of the social media platforms, either Facebook or Instagram. I know it's a fair bet that it was posted in one and it ended up on both, right? What it was about, you were in a room. You're clearly, U-shaped tables, and someone was videoing you talking, and it looked like it was the introduction to a workshop. And one of the things you said had something to do with that. It's not that Terri, it's not that I don't have stuff happen to me. It's that I'm able to, kind of work it through so that by the time I show up in the world to you, what you see is me, kind of the way that I want to play.
That's the key point. Yeah, I do remember that event and that video. I really believe that when we learn to forgive, we can show up authentically instead of showing up broken. And Pete, you were on the journey with me during so much of the time that I was about to break, literally. And I had a choice at that point to either keep going down the path I was going or to find a way to move forward. And I felt very compelled to get this work done, work on myself, create some journey that would allow me to move past the things that could have held me back from serving, helping, and sharing in the world through the businesses that I run, and transform literally. It wasn't getting a bunch of information. It wasn't getting fascination. It was truly learning how to transform myself and create a process that has brought me closer to my husband, happier in business. I just all around, just different than the way I was experiencing life, and wasn't choosing to show up that way.
Right. I guess I did see the two faces of Terri Levine over the course of a few years there. And, I don't want to talk on this program about some of the challenges you were having. What I will say is I encourage anyone listening or watching this to go grab the book, because on a scale of 1 to 10, you were playing at like a 10 crazy for a while there, and not you crazy, but in terms of it was crazy what you had to deal with, and it was like, wow, could this get even more complex or worse or more crazy, and Mark, I just got to say about Mark, to anybody who knows Mark loves Mark, and Mark, I love you. You may or may not ever watch this, because I know you like to kind of separate out, home from work. But the idea of, how Mark is just supportive for you is a tremendous attribute. You have the quote unquote, build your team and choose the people around you. Well, obviously your spouse and your family is a big part of that. And I was able to see firsthand how Mark played that for you, because he could have easily played any one of a number of other ways that wouldn't have made things any better.
No, I really feel very blessed every day that I really have, I think, the most easygoing husband in the world. I really do. He always supports me. He's always by my side. And, we just celebrated 40 years of marriage. And I have to say that I'm just blessed every day to have him as my partner. And that's really important. We choose the people we work with as our team in business. And we have to also choose the right partners. And sometimes people focus more on making their team choices in business than on being in the right supportive family partnership. Super important.
Right. Yeah. Think of how much somebody researches, like which car to buy. Something that in the end really doesn't mean a whole lot, other than maybe your personal self-image, and maybe sometimes, as the jokes go, you're compensating for something else, right? Because you have the flashy car. But I want to just recognize that the team, and you set up over the course of time how you play with the team around you, how you pick. Of course, there is 50% or whatever the actual number is of divorce these days. You pick your spouse, you pick your employees, you pick your partners in business, you pick your clients. you pick everything, and you have the freedom to choose, like, this person works or they don't work. And I think what you've demonstrated, and I've observed with you, there are people in your life that have worked, and definitely people that have not worked, and you've navigated that really well over time.
Yeah, and that's a learning process, right? When you go through life learning, there are some relationships that extended way past the point that they shouldn't have, probably, or
Mhm.
should have. And I'm getting better and better about ending those relationships. I had two apprentices this week, 2 out of 6, that made some massive errors, and they weren't just little errors. And in the past, I'd be like, oh, I'll work with them, I'll keep helping them. And I thought, no, this is taking too much time and too much energy. I'm going to let them go. I'm going to let them go to somebody else who actually may be able to be more suitable to help them and their apprenticeship. And just very quickly cut them both. And I was just sharing with you a friend of mine that was like not acting like a friend. I just said, I don't have time for this. I have a very big mission. I not only love what I do in business, I want to spend time with my husband, and I really want to make sure that this book gets into folks' hands. I'm not going to have time for people around me anymore who aren't loving and supportive and kind to me all the time. So these are some big decisions that affect my business and my personal life, and they're important and they're part of the process.
Yeah, I could almost have this image of you're either in concrete that's setting while you're standing in it, and you have a choice. You can get out of the concrete and shake the bits off, or you can allow it to set, and then you're stuck. And I think what I'm relating about to break to be is how to not allow yourself to get stuck.
Exactly. Very good point. Exactly.
So I love how some of this comes into the business world too. And I know, right before we get on this, we were, Terry, you and I were talking about just the book and the process, and you really love your publisher. I happen to owe him a book myself.
Yes, you do.
I know you know all about it. So, but the whole sense of support that you have, behind this book is amazing. And certainly, I hope everyone who's listening to this does go out of their way to go over to Amazon and look up Terri Levine, About to Break. And
Can I suggest that they don't go there? Would that
oh,
be
even better. Go. Where do you
yeah.
want to go?
So where I'd prefer that you go, and I'll tell you why, is abouttobreakbook.com. Abouttobreakbook.com, and here's why. First of all, instantly when you get the book through that website, you can get the Kindle book, you can get the print book, either way. You will be entered into a contest to win a $15,000 consulting package from me.
Why not, right?
Right? And second of all, you don't lose, you win. You instantly have the ability to have $200 worth of consulting delivered right to you. All you do is get the book through abouttobreak.com, and you have $200 consulting package handed to you. And it is my way of passing forward the world of business that's been so good to me.
That's brilliant.
You in your business and in your life.
I love that. And, so of course, why wouldn't you do it that way? So, yeah, abouttobreakbook.com is definitely the way to go. You think about, buying a book and how many times you've spent $20 on, someone, rings the door and says, "Hey, would you like to buy a raffle ticket?" Now's the sort of, the season now that school's back in. We get the football team coming and ringing my door, and then we get the basketball team, the baseball team in the spring. The variety of people all for the $20 raffle ticket or $20 gift card that has the discounts at all the local restaurants. People take $20 out of their pocket all the time for something like this. And here you've got, quick math, everybody, a $200 benefit for a $20 investment. So that's pretty huge right out of the gates. And then of course the raffle for the $15,000 of you and your consulting.
Yeah. So the book will be worth it. And the other thing that I'm going to tell you is, if you are in business and you're trying to attract more leads and you're thinking, how can I do that on the internet? When you go to abouttobreakbook.com, also look at how that whole page is built, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. It is built really well. I was telling Pete, it has one of the highest conversions that I've ever seen. So when you look at it, get the book, and then also really look at the site and ask yourself, wow, can I use something like this to generate leads in my business, no matter what kind of a business you have, manufacturing, retail, service. The goal of the website is also to teach you how to have a perfectly done website. So it really is working. So abouttobreakbook.com, look at it, learn from it, and please order the book and share the book with as many people. I'm telling people, get the book for yourself, get the book for friends, family, Christmas gifts for client family members, and anyone that you want to make amends with.
I love that. And I love how you just set up, that this is releasing right at the end of November, right before the holiday season, right? So it's the perfect time. And this concept of, hey, check out the website, it's actually converting pretty well. This is the idea of success leaves clues. Why recreate the wheel? So here's an example. Here's a model of something that's working. So as you go there, look at it, think of what your products and services are. I know I'm about to go there right after this call, because of course I'm an action taker. So as soon as Terri, you said, hey, about to break, it's ready to go. I'm in pre-launch now. 10 seconds later, I was on my phone, right? Amazon.com, app, and I'd ordered one. So will I still go and get one the other way? Absolutely, right? Because now I have the opportunity to go see what the formula looks like. And we do similar businesses in that we are service providers. We help people through consulting and leadership and others. So there's got to be some carryover to what you're doing to what it is that we might learn from. So I'm all in for that.
Yeah, you're going to love it. You're really going to love it. And I'm just excited and happy to share the word. And right now, Pete, I just feel like the world needs healing. So the book is appropriate, even if it's teenage kids that people have. The book is helpful for everyone at every age.
Well, let's just let me do a quick assessment exercise with everyone listening. So if just do a little introspection. And if you've got anything in your life that you're still hung up about, you've got some anger or frustration, or you're remembering something that didn't go the way you wanted to go, and you're shoulding on yourself, right? Don't should on yourself, but you're like, oh, I should have handled it this way, or I wish I had done that instead. Those are all clues about you having an opportunity to flush that and clear it. And this is a great way to do it. So Terri's teaching you a process in this book. So let me suggest that that's a really good reason why to look. And if it's not you, do you know someone around you who's having the same challenges, the same issues? And I love that you brought in, maybe it's your kids, because they certainly give us, let me just talk personally. And my kids certainly challenge me occasionally and frequently, maybe not just so infrequently occasionally, and it's about how usually it's about how I show up, and it's about what my stuff is that determines how I react. And maybe I'm tired from a jet lag trip from Europe, and I'm coming back, and it's like I finally get home after what should have been a 2.5-hour ride from JFK, and it was almost 4 hours. Like, oh my God, I want to go to bed. I don't want to have dinner. I don't want to talk to anybody. Right? Well, that's not so easy, right? And so, yep, did I snap a little bit the other night? Yep, sure did. So that's me forgiving me and inviting them to not be mad at dad for that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So you started the conversation about from the time you were 5 up until now, and you've got all of these different experiences. Do you share other examples, not just getting lit on fire?
Yeah, every chapter of the book is told through an experience that I've had, whether it was something with my parents, and there's quite a bit revealed in there, whether it was something with my niece, who the book is dedicated to, my wonderful niece, Sarah, whether it's something that came up in business and I've had those experiences, or whether it was something with a friend or even my sister. So you kind of live vicariously through me. You hear my story, and some of my stories you may relate to, and some, while you may not relate to, you'll see how I still use the process, and you can relate that to your own life. So every piece of it tells a story and then reveals a part of the path of the process. Another story, then a process, another story. And part of the book includes Radical Forgiveness by the late Colin Tipping. Colin was such an amazing person, created Radical Forgiveness worksheets, and I'll just share a little bit about that. I've been using those for myself and with client family members for about 2 decades. And I thought that was helping me forgive until I had something major come up in my life. And I kept realizing I didn't feel forgiving at all. I was going to court with someone who was suing me frivolously. And I was angry. I was resentful. I was mean. And I said, but I did worksheet after worksheet. It wasn't working. And that's how I figured out I needed to keep incorporating things and experimented. So Colin was going to write the foreword to the book. And unfortunately, due to his illness, and he knew he didn't have much more time, he got back to me and said, I just don't feel well enough. And sadly, he passed before the book came out. However, the Radical Forgiveness Institute is aware of the book, and we link to Colin's Radical Forgiveness worksheets, which are a piece of the process. And his work really inspired me on the path to true forgiveness.
Oh, that's great. And of course, as you share, mentors have mentors. So you mentoring people in this process, of course, you had Colin to lean on, and you worked with his process for years. So you taking that and figuring out how to modernize it or personalize it or up level it, right? So or plus it, right? So you've done exactly that. I love that there's stories in the book. Stories make things real. We as human beings relate to story, and whether it's an Aesop fable or it's the Terri Levine real life experiences, as crazy as I'm sure some of these will sound. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. They're very transparent. They're very raw. And if I can just share, when I rewrote this book 16 times, and part of the reason is, and you're in the public eye in your niche, it's like, ooh, do I really want to reveal that about myself? What are people going to think? And then when I shared with the 100 people, and at the time I really wasn't intending to write a book, they got so much from the process, they convinced me to write it. I thought to myself, if people don't want to accept me for who I really am and what I've really been through, I have to be okay with that, because the book itself is going to transform and heal so many people. I decided not to care about what anyone thinks about me after reading the book, that I know it will help them.
Well, and if I can offer a perspective, T, that when you live in a place where you recognize you're a 24/7 person and you show up the same every day and you live in consistency and live in integrity, then when someone sees an example that's a non-business example of some challenge, because we all have challenges. Every human being has some, opportunity to get courageous or try something new, or has to deal with something that, they're like, oh, why me? Why me again? Maybe it's again and again. So you showing up and how to handle something there is demonstrating that you're real, and that's the integrity and consistency part, because that carries over to how you behave in other places. So I'm glad you shared that, and I think that if I can offer, that probably will help you in your business just by being so authentic and really clear about it.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And there are some business examples, being sued by someone frivolously for 15 years that cost me well over $300,000. And there are some other not quite rights in business. So as a business owner, you'll also pick up some things in the book that I know you'll be able to relate to.
Right. And I love that you just used the not quite right phraseology. I love it. All right, Terri, one last element. Is there anything that is really important to share before we hang up and call off the phone?
Yeah, so you want to get the book like now. It is pre-order right now, and so the bonuses are now. Once the book is no longer pre-order, you lose the opportunity to win the $15,000 consulting, and you don't get the $200 package right away when you get the book. So just get the book. You can get it on Kindle pre-order, or you can get the actual book shipped to you pre-order, abouttobreakbook.com, and I know it's going to make a world of difference.
Perfect. Abouttobreakbook.com. Very simple. Hope you all go there. I am. All right, Terri, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is a great interview today on Business Results Radio, and we look to see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.
Hey, Pete here again. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. And I invite you to come back to this video channel or go to the podcast channel for Business Results Radio. Check it out, subscribe, give a 5-star review, and go ahead and share it with your friends. Until then, we'll see you again.